Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. Because this is Airwindows DeBez. So what's this thing? This is a kind of early experiment that led me in some of the directions I'm busily taking with Console H. This is using Bezier undersampling, but it's also using bitcrushing. And it's doing bitcrushing the same way that I'm doing with HipCrush, where if you go one direction, what you get is HipCrushing with a no offset, so it doesn't gate. In other words, it becomes full blast. And then if you go the other direction, you get HipCrushing with an offset of exactly half a sample, so it gates. So the deal with this is, of course, part of the HipCrush plugin where you've got multiple bands of it, and that's going into Console H as well, where you get to frequency narrow what's being done. This, not so much. What this one's doing is it's applying DeBez the way that I do on my reverbs. So if you take that to the right, you have a unstepped Bezier undersampling. And that gives it a weird sort of tonality. Here, I'll throw something else on. It's a bit of a keyboard. So at literally 0, we have full range. And I've also got a inverse wet setting in here as well. So if you go to the right on DeBez, you get a weird overtone. If you go to the left, like it is with a lot of the reverbs, you don't get the weird overtone, but you get a stepped tone control. And you can get a little bit of an overtone if you take it far enough down, but mostly it's just kind of darker. So what you would do, here, let's switch over to a rock song so we can hear all aspects of this going. Set that to normal. And then if you wanted to do like a sampler style effect, maybe we'd like to darken it a bit. Or more. That's with DeBez. And then we might want to bitcrush a little. They were watching ponies on the New York Stock Exchange. They all joined their hands and set up. In doing that, we can get a kind of old sampler effect where we're darkening it a little bit, and we're also DeRezing it. We're doing a bitcrushing. And of course, we can do the bitcrushing in multiple ways. Like that's a gatey style, but we can also have it compress. And the interesting thing about that is we're using the cleaner end of DeBez to darken it. That is doing a Bezier undersampling on what is straight up just a regular bitcrush. So we're getting a darker sampler sound out of it. And then we have a dry wet. And the dry wet gives you inverse as well. So the interesting thing about the inverse is that that is going to reverse the behavior of your bitcrush. Let me demonstrate. We'll go back to the drums. And let's say we're not filtering, but we have the full sustain bitcrush. We get a bit of the opposite effect out of that. Or it's not quite as described in the sense of reversing the compression and the gating. But one of the things it is doing is letting you hear the original sound again. So it's an inverse wet control. Basically what that's doing is it's letting you mix it in as a negative. So if you had it like this, and then you darkened it, or maybe you could give it a weird overtone, but we're going to leave it like that for now. And then you went for the inverse, what you're going to get is a little bit of the dry signal peeking through. And we're subtracting the sound from the dry. So we can make an interesting thing happen there. You can hear it adding a kind of character to the sound. And if you're looking for a samplery kind of sound, maybe you want to go for something like that. We'll throw it on the keyboard. And you can do this. If you're looking for a bit of a grainy sound happening, here's one way you can go about doing it. And then we can go to the dry sound. And then we can go back to full wet, and it will contribute rather than subtracting. And we can make that noise floor a little more compressey. Darken it a little more. And that's just something you can do. So this is DeBez, and again, these are the experiments that I've been doing on my way to something like Console H. My whole concept there is I'm looking to be able to give something to a community and help with the situation where making music these days, man, I'm telling you, the idea of people just replacing that with AI generation, I'm not really down with that. I think you should be able to make, indeed, hit human music. And so I'm trying to make tools to help that happen more. And DeBez is part of that process. It's obviously not the only part, but my idea is to give a tool where you can do your bitcrushy things. You can use my Bezier filtering in a couple of different ways. And this gives you sort of audio paintbrushes to work with stuff. And the hope is to be able to use that to make something interesting and new. So I'm going to get back to working on things because I'm not sure if I'm going to spend a half an hour talking about this one. It is a step along the way, and I get to share it with you. And then I'll go back to doing things like making videos I'm still making videos for the Patreon folks over $10. I don't withhold anything from people no matter what, but people who are helping me out that hardcore, I'm making videos on things in my record collection, and this week I decided to do the classic Def Leppard track Photograph in both my original meter and the new meter that I'm developing for the new versions of Console Dark Meter. And it's extremely funny to see how on the original meter, that track just comes across as nothing but blue dots over the white background, because that's what I assigned for the most sonority that you could get. And Dark Meter works in a different way, where it's more free to assign colors to things. And the equivalent for that would be green dots, because those show up better over a black background. And it's a sea of green dots. It's hilarious how well Mutt Lange controls all the noises to make them do exactly what he wants to do. And the great thing is, if you can study that and you can interpret what's being done, then you can do it. So 2026, I'm going to be leaning way harder into the you can do this concept. But for now, I hope you enjoy playing with DeBez. I'm going to get back to work. I'm here every week. That this is something that I continue to do if anybody is stumbling across this for the first time. Yeah, I'm here every week with a new plugin. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.